to Stay Hot. I'm here with Blaiden Kirk and Theo Ash. And today we're talking about what? Top 5 edge rushers here on an Easter Sunday. Mind you, when you see it, it'll be April 1st. Which, watch out, be careful. But just know that these takes are not coming from April 1st. They're coming from a time where we're being honest and true. So
I don't know, man. Maybe they will be.
T. Higgins traded to the Panthers for the 33rd overall pick. Matt, are you seeing this?
Come on, man. I don't even have to check my phone. You're not Ball Sack Sports.
I can't get anything by this guy.
Deshaun Watson traded for Jordan Love 1-for-1.
All right. It was funny when I did it.
Well, what's up with the DeGuara hate you put on the timeline?
Well, he just had some big penalties and big moments this year that my emotions got the best of me.
You're right.
Too many false starts, not enough impact for a day 2 pick. I was looking at his old scouting report on NFL.com. They gave him a special teamer grade, the 5.9, and we took him 3rd round, and he did nothing. But he did have a big injury, I think, his rookie season. So maybe he was robbed of a Hall of Fame career, and I shouldn't be so abrasive about it.
Fair enough. Before we get into
go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just gonna say before we get into it, do you guys have any, or the edge rushers? You have anything else you want to talk about? But clearly you do.
Oh, I was gonna say, did anyone see the Matt Corral debut?
Did you watch the Matt Corral debut?
I did not.
He's really bad, man. He can't play like at all.
Man, don't say that. He threw that.
I heard he got
great
benched
touchdown.
and then
he
came back.
Yeah.
He's on Easter
Sunday. They benched him for an interception that wasn't his fault. That's insane.
He got benched and came back. That reminds me of a figure, an old historical figure here on this Easter Sunday. Blaiden, do you have any Easter plans? I really don't have any.
Neither do I.
Just getting dinner with my family. The usual. Nothing super fancy. We're going to this little, it's like a bar and grill type place, but they serve lobster rolls, I guess. So.
Oh, let's go.
So we're cooking, and my mom should be paying. So we're cooking.
That Ohio lobster, fresh out of Lake Erie.
Hey, man.
Lobster rolls are good anywhere. I like lobster rolls.
Lobster roll doesn't have to be the most fresh. It's not like just straight up a tail. But yeah, other than that,
right. Get some potato chips with it. Some mayo. I was just in Boston. They taught me all the ways.
I'm sorry?
Potato chips and a lobster roll.
Really?
Potato chips are like the best possible compliment. A little bit of saltiness and crunchiness. I don't know. Like the lobster itself. Well, on the roll, you've got kind of the sweetness of the lobster, and then like the mayo, which is obviously going to make it a little bit more moist on the bread, and then something salty and crunchy. Like there's nothing better you could eat. This is straight from Boston. This intel, and they made it for me, and I was like, man, these potato chips with the lobster roll really go crazy. Now at a restaurant, I don't know if that's possible. But you should like sneak some in like a flask or something.
Potato chips in a flask.
Or you don't have to put them in a flask, but like if you wear like a coat and you could like pull it out of the side pocket of the coat. I've always wanted to like.
Or like under the brim of a hat because they're kind of curved.
Yeah,
like
man.
a hat brim is, and then you could like tape them.
I'll put like a dispenser underneath, and I'll just like pop them into my mouth directly.
Yeah, you could wear a big long top hat and then
fill it with an entire bag. Yeah,
of Lay's potato chips. Is there a specific brand, or can it be like Lay's?
I think it could be Lay's. Honestly, I think it could be Lay's, and it would still be fine. I mean, if you're at a restaurant, I don't know if this is possible, but if you like make lobster rolls or have them outside of a restaurant, you should have them with potato chips. That would be my recommendation, but
all right.
Lobster
expert Theo Ash.
I am.
But he is.
I am now.
Is he also the NFL draft expert as we get ready to talk about our edge defenders.
I feel pretty good about my edge defender list. Outside of number 5, the
Yeah,
main 4
I
are
was
clear. It's
Yes.
Verse and Latu and Turner and Chop. And
Yes.
then to me, Braswell is intriguing. Darius Robinson is intriguing. But man, I went down the list and watched a bunch of guys, and I was like, I don't like day 2 of this edge class very much at all.
I'm glad
feels
I'm glad I wasn't alone feeling that way.
Yeah, that
So-
5th edge spot is tough.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
I had a big problem with that, and honestly, my problem with those guys, with those 5s, Isaac from Penn State and Braswell from Alabama specifically, they're sort of project dudes. They're not super complete. They've got some hand. Isaac, has some moves in there for sure. But the problem I have for him is I don't think they're very good at setting the edge, and I don't think they're that twitchy where it's like, man, I don't know if you're going to be able to get it done in the NFL run defending wise. And if you're a developmental edge rusher, how is that gonna translate to like you actually getting on the field?
Yeah, definitely. I watched Isaac pretty closely. Braswell was kind of while watching Turner, like one eye on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't very moved by Isaac. I thought that he was solid, but
He's a grinder.
yeah, he was a grinder. I actually thought he was
Ferocious.
decent at setting the edge, but like he didn't have great size or bend, or like he didn't have a ton of play strength on a bull rush. I was like, what is this guy gonna come in and like be? Is there one thing that he could win with occasionally? It's not like he has one overwhelming trait. And then like as far as being well rounded, I just feel like he has more weaknesses than strengths. I wasn't super moved by Isaac. I didn't have.
I thought the same thing. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's sitting right around like 250, maybe a little bit under at the combine. I didn't have crazy testing numbers. It didn't look like a crazy tester on the field. There'd be a lot of times where he would, go outside and not be able to bend around and stay up, and he'd just get washed out of the play. And it's like, man, if you aren't quick enough to consistently be beating, the college tackles around the edge in the NFL, it's a whole nother ball game. And that's for a guy who I think is probably maybe not going to have to, but probably would benefit a lot from putting weight on. Should only make that more difficult. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the honorable mentions here. One guy I really liked was Khalid Duke. I don't know if you got it. He's way down the board. I was going through the edges and I was giving them the 15 play test. So I'd just click on a random name on Caddy's cutups and I'd watch 15 snaps of them. And if they moved me, I kept watching. And if they didn't, I just moved. Like it wasn't a full scouting report. I just moved on if they didn't move me. And so I was kind of clipping through some guys. I don't even remember who I all watched. But Duke from Kansas State, I liked a little bit because it's almost a Will McDonald situation from last year where I thought he was out of position. He's like 240 and he's in like a 3-3 front as like a 5 tech or 4 tech or even a 3 tech a lot of the times, instead of, in my opinion, what he's built the best to do, like as a stand-up edge, like an outside linebacker type.
Right.
Now, I thought that with Will Anderson. Will McDonald last year, he was playing out of position. And I thought once you got him into a wide 9, he would just cook. And now he's being replaced by Hassan Reddick and didn't do anything his rookie year. So, this archetype isn't necessarily a lock. He's got to go through a position change. But he's someone that I liked his play strength to hold up in the role he was in at 240. Like the way he took on doubles was kind of creative. I saw him like lie on the ground one time and guys just kind of tripped over him. And he didn't make a play, but like his linebacker was free. He was able to stack and shed a couple times. I saw him get some power on a bull rush while also having a decent bag of moves and some bend. So I thought like a lot of the times the tape is bad because he's getting overpowered at his position. But I'm like, with a position change, I think he has some tools that could allow him to at least be a good run defending edge in that way and with some pass rushing juice. So I like Duke a little bit, but he's like a projected 7th rounder. And then Howard, I think, Xavier. Oh, who's the guy at Clemson?
Xavier Howard or
Yeah,
Xavier
yeah, yeah.
Thomas.
Yes,
Xavier
Xavier
Thomas.
Thomas. That's right. Yeah, that's right. He had like a really good first step and was super fast and had some ways to counter. I don't know if he'll ever be a positive run defender, but he seemed to have some juice as a pass rusher. So those would be my honorable mentions. But I went through a lot and I wasn't super moved with like who's the Utah guy? Jonah Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he looked like a
Right.
UDFA, and he's like supposed to be potentially edge 5 or 6. It's like I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
I
not the
don't
most
disagree.
exciting. Yeah, I think PFF likes Ellis a decent amount, if I'm not mistaken.
I watched another guy from Houston that PFF kind of liked, and I'm like, this guy just has nothing that I. But that was again the 15 play test. Maybe he turned it on in the fourth quarter, but through 15 plays, I was like,
Yeah.
there's just no way that this guy's a good NFL player.
I don't know, and I feel like last year's edge class was kind of like that too. You had a couple of guys at the top, and then a pretty substantial drop off.
Yeah, I feel like the edge classes in like my time scouting these last 3 years, like there hasn't really been an edge class that is like a top tier. I guess with the Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker year was pretty good for guys going at the top, but even then,
guess.
like draft Twitter wasn't that high on Trayvon Walker, you know. But
No,
I guess I
it
can't
was-
say that was a bad year.
Maybe not bad, but
Well, who do you actually have at 5 then, fellas?
so are we gonna go 5-1? Change it up a little. That'll be our.
Yeah, sure, why not? April Fools, we'll go from 5 to 1. For now, I'll go with Darius Robinson, but I'm not sure I'll stick to
The
that.
Missouri guy.
The Missouri guy.
Yeah.
That's who I had as my 5, but I don't disagree with you. I'm not like
I'd be
married
willing.
to it.
I'd be willing to switch to Broswell. I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people like him, but yeah, I think if we're
Nealand as well.
yeah, I just kind of I do worry about the size. I think a guy that's 6'5" to almost 300 is probably more likely to succeed in the NFL. I think that's just
Yeah, he's got great size and length. He's really powerful. He's kind of in the verse tier for me, where like you can bring him in and trust him to win with power and with the long arm and the bull rush, like right through somebody's frame. Robinson doesn't have like the first step that Verse does. I feel like he's big, and I think he's a bit slow to get started compared to Verse, who's got a bit more explosiveness to him. But he's way bigger than Verse, so he kind of brings the power in that way. And then he's got some moves to disengage as well. He's not like an expert hand fighter, but he's not someone that brings the power initially and then just can't separate from the guy. Like you need that finishing move to shed the tackle and actually sack the quarterback. And he's got, if he pulls you or swims you, like you're probably going flying, and he's on his way to the quarterback. So I think as a power rusher, I like what he brings to the table. And I think that if you miss out on Verse in round 1, like Robinson is kind of a similar type of player in day 2.
Robinson, yeah, it's like of all the 5s, it's like, okay, these are a bunch of project dudes. I feel most confident that I can actually get him on the field and get him some real reps, His size makes it not only so where I think he just holds up better against the run, which I know for edge rushers, not necessarily. It's like you got to earn the right to rush the passer all the time. You can have specialists, but it'd be nice to have somebody who you could just keep on the field a little bit more consistently. But Robinson also, I think, has a versatility to kind of play, at a bunch of different spots because he's got that experience out on the edge, but he's big enough to hold up inside in some schemes. So I look at that and his strength and his length, and it's like, okay, I'm probably just going to take that and then see if I can build off that rather than somebody who I wonder if they have a real like dominant or real big time trait about them.
Yeah, I mean, Robinson in his, in 2021, 2022 played mostly inside. He played in that B gap kind of role and before moving kind of more outside, he was more over and outside the tackle this year, but he's definitely got some experience inside. He's got enough versatility that I think you guys are right. It's just easier to get him on the field than someone like Broswell or Isaac.
Yeah, and it's just such a small edge class too that the value of his strength and size gets moved up a little bit. So he's my number 5.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So that pretty quickly brings us to number 4. I have a feeling we might have the same order here. I have Chop at 4.
He is my 3. I have Verse at 4. I shouldn't give away
Okay.
what my list is.
Okay.
But Verse to me just seems a little stiff in ways that the others aren't. I think when you ask him, or you wouldn't even be asking him to do this because I don't think he can, but he's a bit predictable. Like, yeah, he's going to bring speed to power. He's going to bull rush you. He's going to long arm you. He has moves. Yeah, he's very good at it. I mean, he's better to me than Robinson in this regard. So that's why he's higher. Yeah. But man, if you are a team that wants to run sim pressures and your edges are going to have to break out or like go into coverage at all, like I don't think he's going to be able to run with anybody. Like he's a total liability if he has to like defend a Texas route or something like that, or even just out in the flat. Like I'm just not very convinced that he has got the fluidity to ever drop back and went around an outside shoulder. He's really good at what he does. But he's got some major flaws, and I think that he's kind of one-dimensional. That's my thing with Verse. He's good at what he does, but he's not as potentially well-rounded as Chop and Turner and Latu.
I don't hate that take. My only I was close to moving Chop up, and then I watched Ohio State 2022, and he got pretty handled by DeJuan Jones. And given that's like an NFL player, so it's like, and he's been good in the NFL, so maybe that's not a fair comparison, but like that's who he's going to be going up against in the NFL. And there were just a lot of times where he could not. There was like one time where he really was able to get a win. And then there was
when he ran under
where
DeJuan Jones, he caught his arms and then like lifted it up and he just like ran.
I think
he ran under DeJuan.
There was one play where it looked like Chop was going to win, and Stroud's just totally unbothered by this. But he does get inside, and he's about to close in, and then DeJuan just kind of flips and just pushes him the way that he wants to go further inside. And so he's just able to like clear him completely out of the play. And I don't know, the fact that he had really only one play where he was able to get anything against Jones was really concerning to me. So that was like, I'm just going to keep him at 4.
Who do you have at 4, Matt?
I have Verse as well. And I think I'm a little bit more positive about him than you. Like, I think he's a first round pick.
I think so too. I think
I think all 4 of these guys are first rounders.
Verse is more like in the 20s to me though.
It's like I agree with some of your Verse limitations, but I think he's relatively polished, all things considered, more so than like the guy who I have at 3, which is Chop. Mm-hmm. But Chop has such a ridiculous superpower. I mean, his first step off the edge combined with his speed and his bend is like up there with pretty much any edge in the NFL. I mean,
he's toolsier than. He's the toolsiest of the 5 we're talking about here today, even more so than Turner to me. Chop, like he is pretty different in terms of the bend and the first step, and he plays low to the ground as well. I don't see a lot of power with Chop all the time, which is a little bit concerning. Like he doesn't. Yeah. If you were just to ask him like beat the tackle, he's probably not choosing the bull rush path, and I think maybe that you can get concerned about his like gap control, maybe like if he's always trying to bend around the edge or try some wild counter, like maybe there's something like that. And then the other thing about Chop that concerns me, even though he's so toolsy, is I look at the defense he played in, and the Penn State defense is great. Like their defensive coordinator should be
Mm-hmm.
getting NFL looks, in my opinion, because their blitz paths and their pressure paths to get number 11,
Yeah.
specifically the linebacker, like free
Yeah,
runs at the
man.
quarterback or Chop himself or Isaac, like everything they're doing, it kind of does look like the Ravens sometimes to me. Like Chop drops back into coverage a lot. Like their sim pressure looks are dangerous, and they ranked super highly in terms of defensive production this year. So I think that I can very clearly see Chop's role in an NFL defense in how he's playing at Penn State. Like they're just using him very creatively. Their pass rush paths are pro ready, and Chop is kind of a rotational guy, and he had 4 sacks. In kind of an NFL-esque situation. So I still have him above Verse because I think his potential is higher because he is the toolsiest, but it doesn't come without risk for him because he'll need to be a better pro than a college player because he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a starter, but he was very much rotation heavy. And when you would watch his cut-ups, they were only like 10 minutes long or 11 minutes long. But if you watch like a full Penn State defensive, game, it's a 48-minute long film, and Chop is only on the field for a third of it, right? So that's the thing that concerns me about Chop is like I see all the tools, I see, what he could do, I see strength around the arc, I see like he could play. He's stronger than I think he plays.
I agree. Honestly, I think there's some times where he does a really good job holding up. I think the run
I do too.
defense
Like
for him is like, it's not perfect, but it's definitely way more there than like you would expect out of a 250, around the edge type dude.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's got the potential within his body to be a positive run defender, and he was for Penn State. I think, yeah, more than anything, it comes down to I think his pass rush plan needs to be ironed out, and then he needs to be more coordinated with his hands. You know, when you have like a flat piece of metal and you like shake and it goes like woo, 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 like that bendy metal sound, like. I don't know. I can't humanly make the noise. Can you imagine it though?
I know. I know what you're talking
I feel
about.
like that noise is just happening when he runs. It's like things are just kind of like bending and flying everywhere. And I wish he played a bit more under control. And if he did, I bet he could see the field a bit more and have more production than the 4 sacks that he had last year. I definitely think he needs a way more polished approach in terms of his pass rush.
He's got to be able to go inside. He has to be able to go inside, more consistently. Or there's just going to be certain tackles that can match up with him if they know he's only going one way, and that like cooks him. Although you say it's like, oh, it's Ravens-esque, would not be a bad landing spot for him.
No, it would not. No, it would not. I mean, it's a defensive meta that is very desirable in the league right now. Like edges who can just fly around, and if you need them to drop back, they can drop back, and they might, if you need them to stunt, they can absolutely fly and bend around a tight corner. Or, I think that Chop fits modern defenses more than Verse does. Like if I was a team that just put 4 guys down and had them rush over and over and over again, like just straight, then I think Verse might be more productive early because he's got that bull rush. But Chop to me is just the more malleable defensive piece who could impact your scheme in more ways.
That is a big benefit. You can really disguise a lot if you have, Chop lined up at, whether it be a 7 or a 9, and then you just drop him back and you rush that outside backer instead. That can you can really throw some nasty disguises out there. I definitely see the vision for that.
I mean, you look at Penn State. I mean, they just have freaks all the time, like Micah and Oweh, another Ravens guy who didn't have any production. Right, he had 0 sacks, I believe, the year before he got drafted. But he was a freak, right? He was just an absolutely insane athlete. He goes to the Ravens, and how many sacks did he have this year in that scheme? 10? Did he get to 10? He got to 5, not even close to 10. But still, he had a decent season.
We could round up though, and
you can round up
counting by tens.
5 ain't nothing though, in terms of 0. Oh, he's only had
That's
13
true.
sacks in his career. I thought he had more production than that. I'm sorry, everybody.
But he's been hurt, hasn't he?
Maybe his
We'll chalk it up. We'll chalk it up
PFF
to
numbers
injury
are
luck
better.
and
Or is it David Ojabo that's
the
been hurt?
PFF grade.
The PFF grade isn't great either. He had a 60.1, but he did have an elite grade in the. Oh, this is 2022. I might be saved.
Hold on.
77.5. We're PFF
Hey.
box score scouting, baby. I mean, they did chart him with 54 pressures, so that's
not
not bad
strong.
at all, actually. Yeah. So I think I think Chop could enjoy a similar career arc. Maiko obviously was an off-ball linebacker, but he was a Penn State athlete, and look what they turned him into. And away, he didn't have much production, and look what they turned him into. And Chop he didn't have much production, but what could he be? I think he could be pretty good. So I've moved up on him a little bit from my like, oh, he's just Yannick Ngakoue. Like maybe that is what he is, just like he'll just win with speed 10 times a year.
Would Yannick Ngakoue be the worst thing in the world for someone to be?
In the first round, yeah, just because like he isn't a run defender. Like he'll win with speed 10 times a year and get sacks, but like how much of an overall impact is he making on the game? Maybe that's Chop's fate, but I do think like that's far from a guarantee that that's all that he is. He has a higher ceiling than that.
I think that's fair. This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions over at Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our official offer. Go over to manscaped.com and use the code STAYHOT, all caps, all one word, for 20% off plus free shipping. Because after I've started using Manscaped, I can say I have finally caught the spring fever. And of course, you hate making a mess. That's why they made this boy waterproof. Shave in the shower, in the bath, or even, if you really want to, in the ocean. So once again, go and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code STAYHOT. Again, that's all caps, all one word, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping for the best below the waist grooming in the world with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. So at 3, so you guys have Chop at 3, I have Verse at 3, and
which means we all must have
Dallas Turner at 2.
I do
as
Dallas
well.
Turner at 2.
Freak athlete, man. Absolute freak athlete.
You want to talk about someone who can drop into coverage? Like Turner might be the best coverage edge I've ever seen. He's crazy out there.
Yeah,
man.
I can't disagree. And he's got the long arms and whatever, and I think he is a little bit lighter. I don't think he necessarily plays quite as light as maybe he weighed. I think part of that is probably because I wonder if he dropped weight to go run fast in the 40, which he did, obviously. So that worked. But he's not somebody who I think is overwhelming. Like there's different levels of like 250 guys that you can see. I don't think he's quite there.
The length counteracts it a little bit too, because he does.
Definitely. I think it helps him convert some of that speed into power. Whereas with a lot of guys with shorter arms, they can be more powerful. But if you can't like get your hands on properly, it doesn't really matter. I think about the Florida State defensive tackle. It's like, okay, yeah, that guy is insanely quick and he's really big for how quick he is. But the shorter arms make it so hard for him to translate that so many times. Turner is like the opposite. I mean, he's insanely quick, but he's not that heavy. But I think it does a better job translating. And I think overall, like, he can bend around the edge a pretty decent amount. Like, there's a lot available to him with his build. And, it's part of the reason why, long arms are good and being fast is good is so you can do stuff like this. And I don't think he's insanely raw, as a pass rusher. So
no, he started in an Alabama defense. And when you compare him versus Chop, I do think Chop, like his first step is a little quicker. Like his bend is a little better. Like he's probably a little heavier, but he was a rotational guy at Penn State, and Turner gave you production and started all the snaps for years as a 5-star at Bama. I just, one of the guys might just be better, and I think that
Yeah.
Turner, especially if you're going to be running these schemes where it's sim pressures, it's replacements, and he's dropping, like Turner is crazy in coverage, dude. It legitimately bumped him up in my grade. Like he is so disruptive with the long arms, and he tips passes, and like he runs out into the flat and contests things. Like you can put
He'll
him in a
run
hook
with a wheel
zone.
route, man. He'll run with
Yeah,
wheel routes.
he'll run with a wheel route and contest it. Like he is just
Yeah.
really a nice coverage piece on the defensive line, which I would just after last season, I think that's very valuable. Like that might be the answer to all these Shanahan things is like whatever Mike McDonald was doing, and it would be wise to adopt that principle, and maybe that could set the league on fire like the Shanahan schemes on offense did if Seattle is successful this year. So yeah, I definitely think who else has it? Ravens. Did Miami? I think Miami hired a Ravens guy too to be their new DC because Fangio left. But yeah, I definitely like Turner in that regard. Like he's good moving forward and backwards, which matters now more than ever. His play strength isn't crazy. Like I watched him versus Campbell, the LSU left tackle, right? And he tried to bring power a lot and wasn't really getting very far for a lot of the game. And then you watch Verse versus the same guy, and like Verse is way more, like has way more punch to him when at the point of attack than Turner, in my opinion.
But that's the
And
differing
Turner,
in just the archetypes at that point.
and Turner isn't necessarily like super compact and like with the crazy get off like a Micah Parsons. He's a freaky tester, but I don't think his like football athleticism is as special as his testing numbers, because he tested about as good as anybody ever has. And like he's a good athlete on like a great athlete on the field, but I don't think he's quite like I have seen Micah Parsons' name invoked when they talk about it's like, oh, he has Micah level tools. And I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
convinced
think
about that.
he tested in the same realm as like Nolan Smith, right? And you could definitely see a world where maybe he is just Nolan, but I think he's a little bit closer to Anderson just in terms of what he could be year one. I don't know. I'm trying to think about how
Nolan was just so incredibly light. We'll see what he can do this year, though. I'm still holding out a little bit of hope now that Reddick got traded that Nolan can come in and make a positive impact. Don't laugh. Not everybody needs to be all pro.
I'm not.
The problem is I was also high on Will McDonald, so like then it opens up one of my favorite edges to get more playing time, and it like shuts the door on the others. So
it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, both of those guys are very freaky, but I do think Turner is going to be more inclined to produce year one. Partly because of the length that he has. Nolan wasn't quite as
right, true,
freaky with like the crazy long arms.
Turner stood out to me too, like when he was a freshman, and sometimes when you like have known about these guys for a long time and like they continue to be good, they just keep being good. Like I remember watching Will Anderson from not last year, but his crazy year, right? When he had all that, like he was in the Heisman race or something. Maybe he didn't quite get in the Heisman race because that would have been Hutchinson's year. He was in the Heisman. He was?
I think Will Anderson at least had like some votes.
Didn't he have like 18 sacks?
He had ridiculous numbers.
Tackles for losses.
In like 23.
Yeah, he had like an insane number one year.
Yeah, and I remember being like, who is this guy with the crazy long arms on the other side of him? Like, because that guy is going to be a first round pick one day too, and it's Dallas Turner, as a freshman, and then you learn he's a 5-star, and it's like, okay, this guy has been stamped from the very beginning as like a good player. So I like that about Dallas. I guess he was never
a finalist. I guess he wasn't.
Hutchinson got it the year.
And then, of course, I mean, if it was the one defensive player who can go.
They were lucky that there was one.
The rest had to be quarterbacks. Because
Who won it that year?
Bryce Young.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah.
I won't say much.
Anyway, Yeah, I like Dallas Turner. I don't think I'm as high on him as maybe the league is if he's gonna go in the top 10, but I can understand it for modern defense, and like he's productive and he's pretty good. So
Yeah, he is pretty good, but not quite as good as the guy that we all unanimously have as number one, Liatu Latu. I think I pronounced that right, but
Liatu Latu is what I've been
Liatu.
saying. Is it
Okay.
Liatu? Oh, damn.
All right. Someone will correct us in the comments if we're wrong. But talk about just pure technician, kind of in that mold like Hutchinson. Great size, great technique. A lot of people are worried about the injuries, but he's gone 2 years in a row now of being the most productive pass rusher in football. I don't know what more you can ask him to do at this point.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's like if you're worried about him not being athletic enough, I just don't think it matters. He still gets into the backfield as quickly as anyone.
Yeah,
he's
got the play strength and he's got bend. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much more athleticism you want. I mean, if he had a great first step and good bend and good play strength and he was that good with his hands, I mean, we'd be talking about we would be talking about a potential top pick in the
Myles
draft,
Garrett,
like one of the first guys off the board point, like a special, potentially generational prospect if he had like a great first step. Like, there's only not everybody one of these prospects is going to be perfect, and I think in this draft class you're looking for that edge who has everything, and it's not quite there, but man, Latu is pretty damn close, dude, and he is as refined with his hands as you'll see. He's as productive as anybody who's come out in recent years. Like, I think he's a very strong prospect and in a tier by himself at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just look at how talented of a player he is, and I get the knocks on him are like, well, he's older and he's got the injury
Yeah, that's
concerns, and
more.
those are valid. But I think and he's like not maybe like the crazy athlete, right? That you would expect out of, a top 10 pick edge rusher. But being a crazy athlete alone is not enough. Some of the worst picks in recent memory have been because, well, this guy's a crazy athlete, but he's not a technician. And I just think you're going to get to the point where he's on the field and it's like, okay, well, all of a sudden him being 23 instead of 21 and him maybe being a little bit more injury prone, you're not going to care about that as much. And if he starts getting hurt, that's one thing. But I think he's so far in a league of his own when it comes to the technical aspect and his pass rush plans. And he's dominated everywhere he's gone. He looked great at the Senior Bowl. And he's not like some negative athlete or anything, like at all. Yeah. It's just that he doesn't have like particularly long arms, or he doesn't have like a Chop Robinson first step, where he's not like particularly strong. But honestly, man, like he's also not severely underweight. Like some of these other guys that we're hyping up
that's
are. It's like he's got
point,
like 20 pounds on him. And it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry that he didn't get down to, 225 so he could go run a 4.33 or whatever. It's like, I don't know why we even care about that stuff. I see guys come into the thing and they're weighing like 15 pounds under. And it's like, man, I already know you're fast. You need to do all that to run the fast 40. The thing is, I bet it works, though. I mean, I don't want to hate. Like, I bet you the agents are like, yeah, it's going to get you drafted higher anyway. And it's like, all right. But I don't know. I think he's a total beast. The way I've been looking at it is like, would I take him over any of the other like blue chip guys in this draft? Like the Caleb Williams or the Drake May we have up there. Then I got the 3 receivers. Then I've got Alt and Bowers. It's like,
That's
no,
exactly
I wouldn't take him over any of those guys because the age does matter some, and the injury is really way more important. And I do think that those are valid reasons to knock him down some. But after that, I think Atlanta at 8 or maybe to the Bears at 9 are the places that I expect him to go. Like if I were controlling the whole draft, that's where I would end up taking him most likely.
Atlanta, I think absolutely should be taking a shot on this. The age really doesn't concern me like at all. Like I just wouldn't take him over again those like few blue chip guys that we talk about before. But I mean, the age is really only a concern if he's not good already, because a lot of these guys, we talk about if you're drafting someone, you should draft them for how they are right now, because there is a chance that they don't ever change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to assume that, like, worst case scenario, this is who they are forever.
Yeah.
And
Andy
if you
passed.
take,
Go ahead.
yeah, it's like if Latu stays like this forever, you're perfectly fine with that because he's already really good. And it's like it doesn't matter that he's 23. If he were 23 and you're like, well, he's not quite refined yet,
If
then
Chuck
that would
Robinson
be a
was
problem.
23, it would be a lot bigger of a deal than if
Right.
Latu is. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he passes the younger than me test too. Right. I was born in 2000. I've been out of college for a while.
Oh,
That's
man.
crazy,
If you're
man.
if
you're
still in,
getting up there, Unc. You're starting to get to the point where your age would be a negative on a draft
would be.
profile. Now it's sad stuff.
You're going
It
to be
would be a big
24
negative.
this year, man. That's crazy.
I know. Well, that's why it's the test, right? Where it's like if Sam Hartman is like a year older than me, and it's like, how are you just leaving college now, bro? Like you were.
bro redshirted and had a COVID year, and
A lot of people spend 7 years in college. Yeah, they're called doctors.
yeah.
Um,
Get your
but he
PhD.
passes the younger than me test. Latu does, so he's not that old.
Yeah.
He's not notably older. Like he'll be 30 by the time his first contract ends or some bullshit like that. So he's amazing, and the frequency at which he wins, I haven't seen it with an edge rusher. Hutchinson, like I think he is a little Hutchinson-esque. I think.
I'm trying to think of like the best edge prospects we've seen in recent years. And I do think
He's my favorite. I think that
Hutch?
he's my favorite. Well, Thibodeau is my edge one
Oh.
that year. Oh.
Oh.
Hey, he had 10 sacks this year. Don't look at the clips on how they came.
Don't look at the clips on.
Don't look at the clips.
So I mean, yeah, it's like there's probably like Garrett in 17 and then like Hutch and Latu.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like Jalen Phillips a lot. Actually, he would probably be my.
You did like
I love
Jalen
Jalen
Phillips a
Phillips.
lot.
Him and
That was a
Jalen
great
Phillips have
poll.
probably been my two favorites. Because, yeah, I would say so. And they both are falling with injury concerns. Phillips wasn't UCLA. He was UCLA and then he transferred to Miami, I believe, because of injury things. And then Latu was at Washington and then transferred to UCLA because the doctors were a little gung-ho on telling him to medically retire. So
Yeah.
they're kind of similar in terms of, how I view them and I think the type of prospects they are coming out and the risk involved. But like, look at Phillips. I mean, I guess he tore his ACL, but that wasn't a neck. That had nothing to do with his college injuries. And he was edge one in that class. Like he was fantastic. So I definitely think Latu could be at least as good as him and maybe better. And if he doesn't tear his Achilles, like Phillips did.
If he's in the Hutch Phillips realm,
I do think he is
of
in that
production,
realm. Yeah,
you'd be
I
very
think he will
happy
be.
with it. You'd be very happy with that.
I definitely think that he
In
will
Atlanta, you're at 8. When was the last time they've had a good edge rusher, man?
be. Yeah, it's John Abraham, and then Vic Beasley for one season.
The one Vic Beasley season.
It's been a long, long time. I do wonder where Latu's going to go in this draft because I've seen him mocked to the Packers, and he's my absolute dream to
God.
take. If he falls that far and they take him, and it's Gary, Clark,
That would be
And-
insane.
Wyatt, and Latu, they could shred. They could absolutely shred. But I just find it hard to believe he'll actually fall that far. Like he's got these injury concerns, but all it takes is. I feel like if there was a huge red flag at the combine, we would have heard about it by now. Like Jackson Powers Johnson has great film, and there are the whispers, right? Like, oh, he's going to fall in this draft. Like he's not going to be taken in the top 25, like maybe at the end
That's
of the
so
first
weird.
round.
That's so weird.
And then people say like, oh, maybe something came up medicals at the combine, and it always happened. But we haven't
guess.
heard anything about Latu having concerning medicals. And if he doesn't have concerning medicals, like are we pushing him down draft boards for no reason? Because Phillips still won the first round, and I guess he went in the 20s. So maybe we're thinking like, oh, it'll just be like Phillips, but Phillips got underdrafted. Like he could have gone higher, and with that as maybe a precedent, I could see Latu going to the Bears at 9. I'll say that, or the Falcons at 8.
I could very easily see both Atlanta and Chicago going edge, and even if it's like Turner goes first, I don't know if they would take Verse over Latu.
Like, I just can't believe every team in the teens at the very least, like Latu wouldn't be the best defensive player available to them at some point in that range, like based on the film.
Yeah,
because he's
Minnesota. I
you're
could
just
see if they don't
expecting
move
him to
up.
beat somebody.
Maybe Seattle. I know they have Nwosu and Mafe, but he would be better than both of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Seattle's a good spot, definitely. I think Green Bay could trade up. I'm talking about the Packers now, but they they love to trade up, and they love edges with big frames. It wouldn't necessarily shock me. I mean, for anybody, for Green Bay, but they traded up for Jair and Love, and I believe Savage. There's a trade involved with him, and they have a ton of draft capital this year. They have like 11 picks. So it definitely would not surprise me if like the Packers move up, and I think Latu could be a target of theirs. So
wouldn't be bad. Wouldn't be bad. Yeah, Matt and I
have another edge that I kind of like that I want to mention now that we're done with our list. I don't hate Braylon Trice, even though he's really fallen because of his combine, which was like god awful. But you turn on the film with him, and there's something to him. Like he's a big guy as well. He's not severely undersized like some of these other edges, and he's got a decent first step. And it feels like he's almost streaky. Like I'll go a long time without seeing him win, but then he'll get one win, and then he'll like win the next 10 and look dominant. So I think there's some really good traits within him: the size, the first step. Like his speed to power can be very deadly, and he's got some inside counters as well. So he's someone that like since the combine has completely fallen off, but before was viewed as like a potential first round pick. And I think like he definitely should not go in the first round at all, but he's someone that had more intriguing skill sets to me than like some of the others that I
will say with Trice, I haven't watched a whole lot of him either. He has played a lot of football. He played almost 1,000 snaps last year.
Yeah. He was a full-time starter. I don't know.
He's the only one in this class that plays that much. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, he was kind of nice to me. My main take, honestly, was like Ellis was a total fraud. Jonah Ellis in the second. I see him get hyped on Twitter.
Damn.
I see him get hyped in the PFF simulator. I'm like, this guy, like, maybe I'm missing something, but to me, it looked like he had no NFL skill. He's got like a spin move, and that's it. that's how I felt. He's got that inside spin. He's Siakam.
That's crazy. Yeah. Matt, you and I yesterday did a mock draft.
That didn't end up being very serious at all. We did. It was like a mock draft with like 32 people in it, but I was the Commanders, but it went like way too good. I got Caleb Williams second overall, and then I traded away like my second round draft picks. And I have 2 extra seconds next year, and I would have gone into the third round with 3 or 4 third round draft picks. But it was like I kept getting like Blaiden. You offered me one of them. Honestly, I thought it was a really bad trade on your part. I'm not gonna lie to you, man.
Really, trading?
Yeah, I think giving a second and a high third for the 2.8. I don't know.
Well, so here was my thought. Right, so this draft did fall weird. It went 4 quarterbacks immediately. It went Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, it was awful. So I got Marvin. Yeah. I was the Chargers. I got Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 1-5. And then we get later in the draft, and I have the 2-5. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to wait and sit, and hopefully Leggett falls to me. And then we get to like the Colts, and as soon as before I could realize what was about to happen, it went receiver, 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 receiver. And so I ended up trading up with Baltimore to get Keon Coleman because I was like, I'm not going to let them just like take away another
So
receiver
you
from me.
panicked.
I didn't panic.
What do you mean you had Marv?
Bro, who do they have at receiver?
That doesn't mean you should give up draft
come
capital.
on.
for Keon
I do
Coleman.
think that's crazy strategy, man. Killing
man,
for
an
needs
NFL
when
team-
the Chargers position. They're in like total blow it up mode, and you already had picked a receiver, and there's like a million receivers in the
Yes.
draft.
Yeah, like who are their
Yeah,
corners?
but I didn't like anyone. Lad wasn't going to be there. Like, no one was going to be there.
You don't need a receiver though. Like
They
you're
need
the
receivers
Chargers.
bad. Well,
Well,
this
who
is why.
is their
So this
corner?
is why. So this is why I made the trade with Matt because I also was like, okay, I think the corners are still going to be available there. So I traded back up to the 2-8. And then I was like, hopefully I can get Kool-Aid because Kool-Aid was there at like 2.5 or 2.6. And he ended up going at 2.6 or 2.7. And then I took Kamari Lassiter at 2.8.
So you saw a run on receivers, panicked, and overpaid for Keon, and then traded up for your guy who ended up getting sniped from you and ended up with someone you didn't want.
You know what's so funny about the whole thing is that the guy who traded for the 2-4 also wanted Kool-Aid, and the only guy that I wanted at the 2-4 was Kool-Aid. I made both those trades, getting rid of both those picks, and Kool-Aid went at the 2-3.
Is that when Kool-Aid went at the 2-3? Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I was hoping to get Kool-Aid, but I was fine taking
I mean, I love
Lassiter
Kamari
there.
Lassiter.
I was fine
he's
taking
like
Lassiter there.
very
That was-
similar to Kool-Aid.
Those
to
were the
me.
two guys in my queue. I was like, okay, I'll take Kool-Aid if he's here, but if he doesn't fall to me, I know no one will take Lassiter. And then if someone took Lassiter, well, then I was fucked. But I would have.
They
traded
need to.
back at
There
that
needs to be
point.
more Theo Ash NFL fans in this mock draft simulation.
Bengal was in that mock draft.
He should know about Kamari Lassiter, man. I'd let him fall all the way to the second. I'd be thrilled. He's a dog. He has got that dog in him. Is he
Yeah.
better than any of the other corners? Like, I don't actually know, but he is. He has more dog in him than any of them. So he's my favorite.
That's fair. Yeah, I was hoping to get Leggett, but the Colts were on the board. They took Worthy, and then I tried to trade up with the Bills, and they declined my offer instantly. I gave them the same.
There must have been some good defensive players on the board, man. All these quarterbacks. Did Penix go in the first?
Penix and Nix both
yeah,
went in the second.
Penix, yeah, they both
Okay.
fell. There was not another quarterback taken
thought
in the
that
first
was-
round after those four.
Yeah.
It was
I want
pretty
to talk.
funny.
Speaking of the quarterbacks, I watched all their pro days, and May had the best one. I think, even though he sailed that one early, he was on a heater at the end. He was like hitting crazy throws. He had one of those pro days where it's like, if the cameras weren't on and like you heard the scouts talk about it after it happened, they'd be like, he threw it 70 yards off his back foot. And like
my
you
God.
could tell like legendary stories about Drake's pro day. Yes, you might gloss over the ugly misses that he had early, but you could by the end he was on like an absolute heater. And then number 2 I think was Caleb. But he was like mailing it in, I thought. Like he knows he's going first overall. Like his
Yeah.
script was pretty simple, and I also thought like he was kind of lofting all the throws just to be accurate. You know, he wasn't like absolutely putting all of his arm strength into many of them and just kind of like floating it in the bucket, which was fine. And then JJ's I couldn't see because the NFL's footage of it just is him releasing the ball and not like a shot from high up in the stadium where you can see where it lands. So I was like judging how good his pro day was based on if he like cringed or not after he threw it. It seemed like he had some misses based on what I saw, for the amount of cringing that I saw from him. And then the worst was Daniels, who like missed most of his deep shots. I think I'm going to make a video about this because the pro day comparison, it's stupid. It's like it doesn't really mean that much, but like that is like unfortunately how it went down. May, Williams, probably JJ, and then Daniels had to have had the worst. Like, he did not look accurate. But
He really turned sour on Daniels recently.
I have, and I don't know. It's not even that he's like terrible, like he's not Zach Wilson, but to me, he just has no high end passing traits, and I just cannot. I cannot endorse it in really high. Like, he can run around with the best of them, but then it's like, what is he really, really good at as a passer? And I just am like, his accuracy is overstated. I think his arm talent is a bit overstated. Like, it's fine. It checks the boxes, right? It's not like, oh my God, it's a total disaster when you watch him out there. His pocket presence is like, his pressure to sack ratio is bad, but I guess his pocket presence is, not a total disaster. Like, it's fine. But you put it all together and it's like, there are going to be games where he can't just run by everybody. Like, he's playing Fred Warner or something and he can just track them down easily or something. And it's like, can you just stand in there and be a high end passer? Because I think Lamar can be that. Like, I think Lamar has Stafford tendencies, right, as a passer.
Yeah.
And like Anthony Richardson as a prospect last year, I could see like, okay, he's bigger than everybody, taller than everybody. His pressure to sack ratio is great. He's like stepping up and throwing bombs. Like, I love the way he's maneuvering the pocket. I like the way he's reading things out on occasion. Like, yes, he has a lot of work to do with the footwork and the accuracy and learning to throw with touch. But I thought he had substantially better traits as a passer than Jaden has. So I like, and he's like the exact same caliber as a runner, maybe better because he's like bigger and stronger. But talk about injury concerns, like,
Yeah.
Richardson has been so banged up, so that's the only thing I think standing in his way right now. But yeah, I have cooled on Daniels, but everybody else is just so high on him. It's hard not to like become super negative just because like everything else I see is like, he's gonna go second overall. Like, NFL teams love him. But then I watch his pro day and it's like the least impressive, and like the film isn't that impressive to me. So there are some nice things about him. I don't think he's a total disaster, but
he makes
I just
a lot
find
of
myself
mistakes
being
in
negative
the
because everybody else
Bama
seems to be so
game.
high on him.
In the Bama game this year, he makes a lot of mistakes. I always reference the one throw where like the receivers kind of set a pick on like 3 defenders, and it's like you can kind of see his vision for throwing it outside because the safety's hips are turned, and I'm always like, well, I think he should have hit the crosser, but
There was a couple of that, and then sometimes like defensive coordinators show him something and then close it like an opening on the line, and he'll take the bait and try to run through it and then get crunched, right? Try to hurdle him like every game. There are those moments. So I don't know. I know that I've been so negative on him. Maybe I should make a what I like about Jaden Daniels video, but as of right now, I've been getting in fights on the other way.
I don't know. FYI, I just found my Chargers mock from last year, and I went Anton. It was a 3-round mock. I went Anton Harrison, Tank Dell, Jordan Battle.
2 for 3.
No one liked the Anton Harrison pick. I don't remember how the rest of the draft fell, but I just don't. I think I like traded, or I think I like didn't want to take like any of the receivers that were available. I just don't think I liked any of the receivers that were there.
Fair enough.
I think
Tank Dell is nice though. That's a big hit.
Tank Dell.
And Anton had a nice rookie season, so
yeah.
Maybe we should let him cook. I mean, your Chargers draft is...
Do you not like the battle pick? Do you not like the battle pick?
Cincinnati's safeties were like bad this year. Like their defense fell apart.
I think I still have faith that Jordan Battle is going to be really good.
Based on what?
His college tape. Trust.
I don't. They just signed Geno Stone, and I would not blame them for. Hey, but PFF liked him. Blaiden.
That's to replace Dax Hill, not Jordan Battle. Trust.
PFF liked him, Blaiden. So maybe I'm tripping.
Maybe I don't
know. He had an 82.5 grade.
Dang.
Dang.
He's cooking. Theo, you said you've been watching some March Madness recently.
Oh yes, the Sweet 16. I've been watching the men's. It's tomorrow or today, I guess. On Monday, we've got LSU Iowa in the women's side, and is it South Carolina USC? No, it's UConn USC. So it's Bukers and then Juju and then like obviously LSU has a couple stars, like their coach is a star in and of herself, and then of course, you know,
I'm looking
Angel
forward to
Reese,
it.
and then Caitlin Clark, right? So that's going to be some fire matchups on that side. But
Yeah.
yesterday I was watching the men's side, and I was watching Duke versus Houston, which was kind of an entertaining game just because it was so physical right off the bat. That one almost felt like a football game where Houston just came out totally like blitzing, right? And I guess this is their style, like all the time. Like they're super aggressive and physical, but they were like especially so to begin the Duke game. And then you could almost see Duke start to adjust and like start to match the physicality. There was a play earlier where some guys closing out super hard, and then the Duke guy kind of stepped back on him, and he went flying right by him. And I thought like after that, Duke sort of adjusted and settled into the physicality. And then of course, when you're playing that physical, like guys are going to get in foul trouble and guys are going to get injured. And that's what happened to Houston. And it felt like they kind of started a fight that they couldn't finish with Duke. Like they just started with this insane level of physicality, and then Duke kind of locked in, and they got banged up, and like Duke could finish the job. So that was a good game. And then, oh my God, Bama versus Clemson. Who they have Jalen Brunson on their team, dude. Sears, that guy is Jalen Brunson.
He's awesome, man. He's such a baller.
They're gonna win the tournament.
I mean, I was happy to see him do it. Roll Tide, roll, as far as I'm concerned, when they're playing Clemson. But Sears is such a beast, bro. He's so
They had
nasty.
a couple number 15 on their team was like crazy in that game. Grant Nelson was like ridiculous the game before. Like they looked pretty deadly. Number 1 on Clemson though, Hunter. He had a block, and then he hit the ground and like jumped back up to tip the ball back in bounds after blocking it. I was like, that is like maybe the most athletic play I've seen this tournament. Like, plus he was just money on the offensive end. Like Hunter really moved me. I don't know if he's a draft prospect or not, but I was like, this guy has to go pretty early the way he's looking. And then number 24, he had some dumb fouls, but like he was cash as well for Clemson. Poor number 4 on Clemson though. I can't remember the guy's name, but they sold with a free throw shooting. Like March Madness is a funny event to watch just because it's all about composure, and like these guys who aren't pros just don't always have it. It's just this absolute street fight for 40 minutes, and like half the team's basketball career is over if they lose, and like everybody is watching. Like the amount of composure needed in those situations is just astronomical. And no other sporting event that I watch has as many people just like obviously crack under pressure as March Madness. It's total chaos.
It's difficult, man. And I feel like just more can happen in college basketball. You know, you're watching a game and it's like, all right, the guy misses a free throw horribly, and then it's, multiple offensive rebounds in the same possession off. I mean, there was one earlier where it was like made free throw, miss, offensive board, foul, made free throw, miss, offensive board, bucket, and the foul. Like 6 or 5 point play where it's like that just, I'm sure it's happened like sometime this year and I don't remember it, but I swear to God, that stuff just like doesn't happen in the NBA. Like they don't make those mistakes.
No, it's like a mix between an NBA game and a knife fight is like a March Madness game. Like people come in and it's just brutal, and eventually they just like lose composure, and it just becomes like this battle to the death, and it's physical, and it can be like super ugly at times, but the intensity of it is cool. And I like getting to this point because at this point like my bracket is busted and I can just kind of watch and enjoy the games.
Yeah,
and
my bracket is
I fell off, and now I can just, I don't care who wins and who loses, and maybe next year I shouldn't even fill out a bracket at all because I do enjoy watching and not being like, damn,
that would be an awesome
I need UAB to lose by 7, not 9, and then you're like focused on that, and it's like unnecessarily stressful. And then like games when my back bracket is busted and I have no money on it, I'm like enjoying the caliber of play. I don't
Yeah,
need
I
to.
didn't fill out a bracket, but that's just because I love hoops so much. I guess you're not like me. That's whatever. Not many
After
are.
filling out a bracket and it sucking, and then gambling in the first 2 rounds and losing all my money, I don't gamble and realize how much
losing
better it is.
$500 round one. Honestly,
In fact,
I just love the game more than this.
honestly, these gambling pilled losers don't appreciate the game like me. After I ran out of money to bet, is what I was sitting on my couch thinking last night.
my 7th percentile bracket has me thinking this might be for chumps because
No doubt. No, I bet I won the Oakland money line. I won $400 on that, and then I put a bunch of parlays with that money in the next round, and then lost all of my winnings.
They got you.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I shouldn't have done it. I should have just put it in my bank account, but it's like, you know what? It's March Madness. I want to put money on the March Madness games, and then once I won the Oakland game, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna lose money. Like, I'm just going to be having fun. But once you have the 400, it is losing 400 because
yeah, man.
Drawn it, but whatever.
It's free money.
I could win 2,000 if one of these parlays hits, and then if they don't, then
Bro was out here
I'm just at the same spot I was before the tournament itself. Like, whatever happens during the tournament doesn't count. But
Bro was out here trying to win rent money.
I did want.
Bro thought he could get a free month.
I thought so, but I couldn't. That's okay. I mean, I'm about to make this pro day ranking video on TikTok, and it's going to get 2 million views because it's
there we go
controversy,
and that'll pay your rent.
500 Zach Wilson comments will be paying my rent this month. Why do we care about any of these throws? Because I remember when Zach Wilson rolled out and hit a throw, which is honestly a valid
First
point.
of all,
I swear to God, the only people who fell for that are the people who are now like, bro.
You're right. Like, at the time,
like, maybe I'm totally off base there, but it just feels like
no. You're cooking.
Like, dude, he's Rogers, and it would just be like completely on air and like 50 years. Like, I don't know, man.
If anyone's the Zach Wilson, it's JJ McCarthy. Let's be so real.
JJ's got I think JJ, from a Zach Wilson perspective, has like the same effect where he gets touted as this crazy toolsy guy and he's not, but his style of play is different.
I think that's fair.
Style of play.
He just benefited from like a great system in a similar way that like Daniels did. Like,
yeah,
great
he's not
offensive
exactly
line,
got
great run
the like
game.
drop back and run around and just create a thing out of structure every play. Like, that's not why he's mid to me. The Zach Wilson part of it is like, everybody's like, oh man, Zach Wilson, like so toolsy, like such an insane arm, like all these things, but he's like a 200-pound guy with like a fine arm, and he's just not like crazy toolsy. And that's how I feel about JJ. So that's where the Zach Wilson comp comes into me, but there's probably a better comp than Zach overall.
But Zach Wilson comp will make people mad, and that's more fun.
True. I need my clicks. Bro, please click.
Please click, please like, please subscribe.
I've got to go viral. I've got to.
Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. You got our top 5 edges. You got to hear a little bit about the mock draft Matt and I did. Theo's expedition on March Madness, him betting money and then losing it. But hey, that's just another day in the life for the fellas over at Stay Hot. We hope you enjoyed our little April Fool's prank of Matt opening up the episode. And if you didn't notice, shame on you. But Yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast. And until next time, we will catch you on the flippity flop.